Audacity 3.4.0 did me no favors. Sometimes a seemingly harmless change turns out to be a much worse deal in the long run. We'll look at one of those in this edition of Stuart's Audacity Tips. If you shared my last tip, which dealt with the initial release of Audacity 3.4.0, please do me a favor and share this tip with anyone to whom you sent that one, and anyone else you like, as always. So I mentioned last time that I would share a niche case in which Audacity 3.4 offers an interesting new capability. Well, something much bigger has reared its head, so I'm setting that item aside in favor of bringing you news that I think is much more relevant to a large number of Audacity users. Audacity 3.4.0 introduced a revamped version of the Export Audio dialog box. It's important that you understand these changes too, so that they don't throw you should you decide to use 3.4.0. First, a look at the export dialog. Here are some shots of that dialog from Audacity 3.3.3 and Audacity 3.4.0, comparing exports for WAV and MP3. Probably the biggest immediately noticeable difference is the use of a Browse button to select a location to save the file, instead of the location selection being part of the export dialog. This means more clicks to get what you need done. The Audacity team also rearranged many of the export commands on the menus and even the export commands that are available for use in macros and keyboard shortcuts. The upshot of all this is that using Audacity 3.4.0 would mean a significant and negative impact on my VO workflow. Here's what I mean. As you may know, I love to use keyboard shortcuts and macros to make my workflow as smooth as possible, and this is where Audacity 3.4.0 has gone a bit rogue. The team has completely changed the way keyboard shortcuts are managed, and much worse, they have changed the commands that are available as shortcuts without documenting or announcing these changes. Here's a comparison of the preferences dialog between 3.3.3 and 3.4.0. As you can see, there is no keyboard option in 3.4.0. It's now called Shortcuts. Not a big deal, it seems, unless you're trying to follow instructions you find in places like Stuart's Audacity Tips. If you're looking for a keyboard option, you'll be frustrated. Even worse, I use the shortcut key E to call the Export Selected Audio command. Not in Audacity 3.4.0, though. After upgrading my test machine, I was quite surprised when the E key opened the real-time effects panel on the current track instead of Export Selected Audio. And that's without my selecting reset options at install time. Very bad. Even worse yet, when I tried to map the E key back to Export Selected Audio, I found that command to be missing altogether. Here's a shot of the shortcut options filtered for selected. Note the absence of Export Selected Audio, or any other command for that matter. This is a complete showstopper for me. There isn't even an Export Selected Audio command in the macro manager, so I can't create a macro to map to my shortcut key either. Bad, Audacity team, very bad. Features should never be removed without a viable alternative, and forcing users to make sure the current selection option is checked in the export dialog every time they want to export a selection is very, very bad form in comparison to the way it has been until 3.4.0. So, Audacity 3.4.0 is now out of the question as far as I'm concerned. It cannot be made to conform to my workflow. But as I'm writing this, I see that Audacity 3.4.1 has been released already. I'll go check that out and see if any of these mistakes have been corrected. Stay tuned. Hope this helps. I'm Stuart.